Chosen one, you just broke a mind-alerting spell designed to make you lonely and desperate, and the rupture echoed across realms. In this moment, something carefully fed by someone close collapsed, and they felt it instantly. Notice the recent changes: sharper sight, firmer boundaries, narratives questioned and discarded. When a chosen one breaks free, you don't retreat, you rise untouchable. Someone was watching you. Maybe you were at an event. Maybe a picture was posted online. Maybe you simply walked past without even noticing. But on that day, you smiled. And when you smiled, the entire atmosphere changed. The room didn't just light up, it transformed. People felt it. The energy shifted. And in that moment, something inside this person snapped. This person interpreted your smile as proof that real love had entered your life. Not surface-level attraction, not temporary infatuation. Real love, the kind that transforms everything. And here's what you need to understand about broken people. Your joy reminded this person of their pain. Your light exposed the darkness within them. And instead of dealing with their own wounds, this person made a decision, a vow, right then and there. They would do everything in their power to wipe that smile off your face forever. Here's what was happening behind the scenes while this person smiled in your face and pretended to support you. This person was making deposits, little comments about how love never lasts, subtle suggestions that maybe you were expecting too much, casual observations about how all the good ones are taken. And these weren't innocent conversations. These were calculated strikes designed to plant seeds of doubt in your subconscious mind, seeds that would grow into beliefs, beliefs that would influence your choices, choices that would lead you exactly where they wanted you, alone, desperate, and crawling back to their toxic energy. Now let me break down the mechanics of what happened, because you need to understand how this type of attack works. This person used witchcraft. No tools, no rituals, no dramatic ceremonies, just consistent, focused intention wrapped in casual conversation. Every time they saw you happy, they wished for your downfall. Every time you talked about someone you were interested in, they wished it would fail. Every time you spoke about your standards, they wished you would lower them. And here's how witchcraft operates. It works through repetition and proximity. This person needed to be close enough to you to plant the seeds. They needed you to trust them enough to let your guard down. They needed to be consistent enough that over time their voice became background noise in your mind. And that's exactly what happened. Their doubts became your doubts. Their limitations became your limitations. Their bitterness started coloring how you saw love itself. Let me show you the specific techniques this person used, because you need to recognize these patterns. They spoke in hypotheticals constantly. They asked questions that seemed innocent, but planted dangerous ideas. Things like, "Don't you think you deserve someone who does more than the bare minimum?" while simultaneously suggesting that what you were asking for didn't exist. They created cognitive dissonance. They made you want more while convincing you that more wasn't available. They also used comparison as a weapon. They pointed out other people's relationships with either the drama highlighted or the compromises exposed. If someone seemed happy, they found the flaw. If someone was struggling, they used it as evidence that love doesn't work. Every example they brought to your attention was carefully selected to support their narrative. You're either going to be alone or you're going to be miserable. Pick one. Another tactic was manufactured urgency. They reminded you about time passing. They mentioned how everyone else was settling down. They created pressure by suggesting you were running out of options. This urgency was designed to make you panic, to make you feel desperate, to make you grab onto whatever was available instead of waiting for what was right. And when you combine urgency with lowered standards, you get exactly what they wanted. You in a situation that slowly destroys you. While they were planting seeds of doubt, you were developing discernment. While they were whispering limitations, you were building strength. While they thought they were breaking you down, you were actually being forged into something they could never touch. And that's the difference between a regular person and a chosen one. Pressure doesn't break you, it reveals what you're made of. It operated on the principle of agreement. Every time you agreed with their negative assessment, you gave power to the spell. Every time you repeated their limiting beliefs, you strengthened the curse. Every time you made decisions based on their programming, you fed what they created. And they knew this. That's why they kept fishing for your agreement, because without your participation, the spell couldn't fully activate. Now let me tell you exactly who did this, because you need to see clearly. This is someone close to you, an ex who never truly let go, a friend who secretly resented your potential, a family member who projected their failures onto your future, a co-worker who smiled while sabotaging, someone who had access to your private thoughts and used that access as a weapon. You might have watched this person go through relationship drama. You might have seen them struggle with love, and on the surface it looked like they healed. It looked like they moved on, but they didn't. Something happened that crushed this person's heart, and they never got it back. Some betrayal, some rejection, some disappointment, so deep it poisoned their entire perspective on love, and instead of healing that wound, they chose to spread the infection. This person jumps from relationship to relationship, but they're never really present, never really invested, because deep down they can't root themselves in love anymore. They lost that ability, and when they see you, when they witness someone who still has an open heart, who still believes in real connection, who still has capacity for genuine love, it creates rage in them, not because they hate you, but because you represent everything they lost, everything they threw away, everything they can never get back. If you recognized yourself in this message, hype this video to guide other chosen ones to this truth. Every time you mentioned someone you were interested in, they found something wrong with that person. Too busy, too unavailable, too focused on their career, not emotionally available enough, too damaged from their past. And these observations sounded like they were protecting you, like they were looking out for your best interests. But what they were really doing was programming you to see flaws in everyone who came near you. They wanted you to believe that everyone out there was damaged goods, that nobody could meet your needs, that you were asking for too much by wanting someone who actually showed up consistently. They disguised this spell as wisdom, as experience, as them trying to save you from heartbreak. But the real intention was making you so afraid of choosing wrong that you stopped choosing at all. Paralysis disguised as discernment, fear disguised as standards. And when you did give someone a chance, when you tried to build something with another person, this spellcaster would suddenly become extremely available. They needed you more than usual. They had emergencies that required your attention. They created drama that pulled your focus away from developing something real with someone else. You thought being a good friend, a good family member, a good person by showing up was the right thing. But what you were really doing was feeding the spell. Every time you abandoned your own relationship to deal with their manufactured crisis, you reinforced the programming that you can't have both. That love means sacrifice. That connection means abandoning yourself. They spoke about love in a very specific way around you. They used phrases like, "Love isn't supposed to be easy," and if they really wanted you, they'd chase you, and you shouldn't have to ask for what you need. All of these statements sound reasonable on the surface, but they're actually poison, because they set up impossible standards that nobody can meet, while simultaneously making you feel weak for having basic needs in a relationship. This spell worked because it made you feel like wanting consistent communication was needy, like desiring emotional availability was demanding too much, like expecting someone to show up for you the way you showed up for them was unrealistic. So you started settling for breadcrumbs. You started accepting inconsistency. You started making excuses for people who weren't making you a priority. And all the while, the person who cast this spell was watching, smiling, knowing that their witchcraft was working exactly as intended. Your heart doesn't just beat, it radiates. Science has proven that the heart generates electromagnetic fields that can be measured several feet away from the body. When you're in a state of genuine joy, genuine love, genuine peace, your heart sends out waves of energy that other people can feel without even knowing why. That's what happened the day you smiled. That's what shifted the atmosphere. Your heart was operating at such a high frequency that it literally changed the energy in the room. People felt it. They gravitated toward it. They wanted to be near it. And the person watching you felt it too. But instead of being drawn to your light, the demons within them recoiled from it. Your joy triggered their pain. Your peace exposed their chaos. Your love reminded them of everything they destroyed in themselves. So they declared war on your heart. They made it their mission to lower your frequency, to dim your light, to close off your capacity for love. They wanted you operating at their level, bitter, cynical, closed off, jumping from person to person, but never really connecting. And for a while, their plan worked. You started questioning yourself. You started lowering your standards. You started accepting less than what you deserved. But something inside you never fully surrendered. Loneliness wasn't just about being physically alone. The spell was constructed to make you feel isolated, even when you were surrounded by people. To make you feel misunderstood, even when people were listening to you. To make you feel disconnected, even when you were in a relationship. This is sophisticated spiritual warfare. The loneliness component worked by making you question whether anyone could truly understand you, whether anyone could handle your depth, whether anyone deserved access to your real thoughts and feelings. So you started editing yourself, hiding parts of who you were, performing a version of yourself that seemed more acceptable. And the more you performed, the lonelier you became, because nobody was actually connecting with the real you. They were connecting with the mask you wore to protect yourself from rejection. Once you felt lonely enough, once you convinced yourself that nobody could truly see you, the spell was designed to make you so afraid of staying alone that you would accept anything, anyone, any situation, any relationship dynamic, any level of disrespect. Because desperate people don't have standards. Desperate people don't have boundaries. Desperate people accept whatever gets offered because they believe it's all they can get. This spell tried to convince you that your standards were the problem, that your boundaries were keeping love away, that your discernment was actually just you being picky or difficult or too high maintenance. You were supposed to believe that if you just lowered your expectations, if you just accepted less, if you just stopped asking for what you needed, then finally someone would stay. Finally someone would choose you. Finally you wouldn't be alone. Your heart's electromagnetic field is connected to something bigger than you. It's connected to divine frequency, to source energy, to the creator of all things. And when you operate from that connection, when you allow your heart to beat in alignment with divine rhythm, no spell cast by broken humans can permanently alter your frequency. They can interfere temporarily, they can create static, they can cause disruption, but they cannot fundamentally change who you are. You did something they never expected. You went quiet, you disconnected, not with drama, not with explanations, not with confrontation. You just elevated beyond their reach. You raised your frequency so high that their low vibrational attacks couldn't touch you anymore. You started asking yourself a different question, not what do others think of me, not what should I accept, but what do I actually believe about myself. And when you got honest, when you got quiet, when you separated external voices from your own inner knowing, everything changed. You realized their thoughts about you had nothing to do with your actual value. You recognized that their limitations were not your limitations. You understood that their broken heart didn't define your capacity for love. And that's when you stepped into a new version of yourself, not the version they wanted you to be, not the version that accepted scraps, not the version that settled for toxicity, but the version that decides what you deserve, the version that sets standards without apology, the version that walks away from anything that doesn't honor your worth. And when you stepped into that version, the spell shattered, because spells only work on people who believe them, and you stopped believing their lies. You stopped confusing being alone with being lonely. You started recognizing that you could be in a room full of people and feel lonely if those people didn't truly see you, and you could be by yourself and feel completely at peace if you were connected to your own essence. This realization destroyed the foundation of their spell, because once you understood that loneliness wasn't about the absence of people, but the absence of genuine connection, you stopped accepting just anybody. You stopped accepting surface-level interactions as substitutes for depth. You stopped pretending that conversations without substance were the same as real communication, and when you stopped accepting the counterfeit, you made space for the authentic. The desperation broke when you realized something powerful. You realized that you had been operating from scarcity, from the belief that love was running out, that opportunities were limited, that if you didn't grab onto whatever showed up, you would miss your chance. This scarcity mindset is what made you desperate, not the absence of a relationship, not the lack of options, but the belief that time was running out, chances were running out, possibilities were running out, and the moment you shifted from scarcity to abundance, the spell lost all its power, because abundant people don't settle, abundant people don't chase, abundant people don't beg for crumbs. Abundant people know that what's meant for them will find them, will match them, will meet them at their level. You stopped operating like you were in a race against time, and you started operating like you were walking into divine timing. You started noticing patterns you had ignored before. You started seeing how certain people only showed up when you were vulnerable, how certain relationships only thrived when you were struggling, how certain connections felt draining instead of energizing, and instead of making excuses for these patterns, instead of blaming yourself, instead of trying harder to make it work, you simply walked away. You didn't announce your departure, you didn't create a dramatic exit, you didn't explain yourself to people who wouldn't understand anyway. You just quietly removed yourself from situations that no longer served you, from people who no longer aligned with you, from dynamics that kept you operating below your actual frequency, and that quiet withdrawal was louder than any confrontation could have been. The spellcaster felt it immediately. They felt the energetic disconnection. They felt the loss of access. They felt your frequency moving beyond their reach. And that's when they started panicking. That's when they started reaching out more. That's when they started manufacturing emergencies. Because they knew they were losing their grip on you. They knew the spell was breaking, and they desperately needed to pull you back down before you completely escaped their influence. This person has been wearing a mask, pretending to be your friend, pretending to be happy for you, pretending to support you, but underneath that mask is extreme jealousy. They're furious that you overcame, because they were pretending to overcome. You actually did it for real. When you smiled that day, when they decided to target you, your mask had fallen off. You were genuinely happy. But when their mask falls off, pure bitterness shows, and that bitterness is eating them alive. Something is going on in their heart that they haven't cleaned up, some wound they never healed, some pain they never processed, and because they're carrying that infection, they don't want you to be whole. They don't want you to experience real love. They wanted you to end up with multiple bad relationships, multiple heartbreaks, multiple situations that would leave you feeling used and abandoned. They wanted misery for you. Why? Because you didn't choose them, or because they saw you moving into something they wished they could have. Either way, their motivation is rooted in their own lack. They're wrapped up in temptation, tricks, and bondage. They wanted you to accept the lie that you would never find anyone better. That's the spell. That's the witchcraft. You know how when you're breaking up with someone and they say those words, "You'll never find anyone better than me." That statement is designed to create a mist over your eyes. It's designed to make you doubt yourself and stay in toxicity. They were hoping you would accept that lie and continue suffering, but you didn't. You saw through it. Now let me put you onto something real. Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation, and attacks while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play, and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. Watch for the apology that sounds sincere but carries no real accountability. Watch for the tears designed to manipulate your compassion. Watch for the story about how much they've changed when their energy tells a different truth. Watch for the guilt trip wrapped in concern. They're going to try to convince you that you need them, that you were too harsh, that you're being unfair by keeping your distance. But here's what they're really saying. You're being unfair by refusing to stay in the cage they built for you. Here's exactly how they're going to try to finish what they started. First, they'll attempt to isolate you again. They'll suggest that the people you're connecting with now don't really understand you, that your new relationships are superficial, that nobody knows you like they know you. This is designed to make you feel lonely even when you're building genuine connections. Don't fall for it. Second, they'll try to resurrect your desperation by reminding you of past failures. They'll bring up relationships that didn't work out. They'll mention times when you got hurt. They'll subtly point out patterns that make it seem like you're the problem. This is designed to make you doubt your judgment and lower your standards again. Recognize it for what it is. Third, they'll offer themselves as a safe option. They'll position themselves as someone who accepts you despite your flaws, someone who knows your past and doesn't judge you, someone who will be there when everyone else leaves. This is the final trap, because accepting them means accepting the spell again. It means agreeing to operate at a lower frequency. It means choosing familiar misery over unknown possibility. Watch for how they time their reappearance. They won't come back when you're struggling. They'll come back when you're starting to thrive, when you're beginning to smile again, when you're opening your heart to new possibilities, because that's when they need to intervene. That's when the spell needs reinforcement. That's when they need to pull you back down before you completely escape their influence. They'll use your compassion against you. They know you're a person who cares, who helps, who shows up for people. So they'll create situations where you feel obligated to respond, where walking away makes you feel guilty, where maintaining your boundaries makes you feel like you're being cruel. But remember this, protecting your peace is not cruelty. Maintaining your frequency is not selfishness. Refusing to re-enter a cage is not abandonment. The finishing touch they're planning involves making you question your recent growth. They'll suggest that you've changed in negative ways, that you've become cold or distant or different, that the old you was better. This is designed to make you shrink back to who you were when the spell was working, when you were more accessible, more controllable, more willing to sacrifice yourself for others. But you're not going back, you're not shrinking, you're not re-entering that cage no matter how they decorate it, because you know something now that you didn't know before. You know that their spell only worked when you believed you needed external validation to feel worthy of love, and you don't believe that anymore. You need to understand what's been happening while you've been quiet. While you've been in what some people call hermit mode, you've been building. You've been creating in silence. You haven't been loud about it. You haven't been posting everything online. You've been moving strategically. God told you to be quiet about certain blessings, certain gifts, certain opportunities, and you listened. You built your wealth in silence. You developed your skills without broadcasting every step. You walked in your purpose without needing validation from the crowd. And that silence has created curiosity. It's created discomfort in your enemies. They want to know what you're doing. They think you're hiding something because you're struggling. But the truth is the complete opposite. You're building an empire while they sit in bitterness counting your losses that don't actually exist. The heavens are clapping for you, even when humans aren't. And that's all the applause you need. While someone has been trying to manifest terrible things in your life, thinking your quietness meant you were dying in loneliness, you've actually been constructing something powerful. You're a high earner, an innovator, an achiever. You're putting pieces together that are going to shock everyone who doubted you. And this is creating so much frustration in the person who set that spell because their plan isn't working. You're not where they wanted you to be. You're not broken. You're not desperate. You're focused. You're elevated. You're winning. There are people matching your frequency right now. Real connections, authentic partnerships, genuine love. Not the desperate settling they wanted for you. Not the toxic cycles they tried to trap you in. But actual reciprocity with people who see your value and treat you accordingly. Your heart is sending out those electromagnetic waves at a higher frequency now, and someone else's heart is resonating at that same frequency. You're going to meet them, or maybe you already have, and you're about to recognize them. But when you connect, it's going to be undeniable. This is what the enemy tried to prevent. This is what they knew was coming. They knew that once you found your match, once you experienced real love, you would become completely unstoppable. Real love doesn't make you feel lonely, even when you're together. Real love doesn't require you to shrink or perform or hide parts of yourself. Real love doesn't drain your energy or make you question your worth. Real love adds to you instead of subtracting from you. The people coming into your life now will operate completely differently than what the spell trained you to accept. They won't play games with your emotions. They won't make you guess where you stand. They won't be available only when it's convenient for them. They won't use your vulnerability against you. They won't make you feel desperate for their attention or validation. Here's what real connection looks like after you've broken the loneliness and desperation spell. It looks like consistency, like someone showing up without being asked, like communication that flows naturally instead of feeling forced, like someone who makes space for you in their life instead of making you fight for scraps of their time, like reciprocity where both people give and both people receive. You're going to notice something different about how these new connections make you feel. Instead of that anxious, desperate energy wondering if they'll stay or go, you'll feel peace. Instead of constantly analyzing their words, looking for hidden meanings, you'll experience clarity. Instead of walking on eggshells, trying not to scare them away, you'll feel free to be yourself. This is what authentic connection feels like. This is what you were designed to experience. The spell tried to convince you that love was supposed to be hard, that if it came easily, it wasn't real, that you had to suffer and struggle and fight for it. But that's the lie. Real love flows. Real partnership feels natural. Real connection doesn't require you to twist yourself into impossible shapes to make it fit. Watch how these people respond when you set boundaries. Real love respects them. Real connection honors them. Real partnership doesn't see your boundaries as obstacles to overcome, but as information about how to love you better. The spell wanted you with people who would violate your boundaries and make you feel guilty for having them. What's coming next are people who celebrate your boundaries because it shows them exactly how to treat you. Now let me show you what's happening to the person who set this spell, because you need to see how divine justice operates. They're not celebrating, they're not winning. They thought they had you trapped, but you vibrated beyond their reach. And when their plan failed, something else happened. Their own cup started drying up. The very poison they tried to feed you became their own meal. They were successful in manipulating you for a season, but that season ended. And when it ended, so did their power. They went to pour another glass of their toxic influence and the bottle was empty. Their tricks stopped working. Their words lost impact. Their presence lost relevance. And now they're sitting in the rubble of their own creation, wondering how everything fell apart. When you look at where they are now, you see someone operating at a low frequency, low money, low spirit, low vibration. They're in a lower state of being because that's where their choices led them. While you were building in silence, they were bitter in public. While you were progressing, they were regressing. While you were elevating, they were sinking, and the gap between you is getting wider every single day. The desperation they wanted you to feel is now their constant companion. They're desperate for relevance, desperate for attention, desperate for the control they used to have over you, desperate to matter in your life again. But desperation from a place of manipulation is different than what they tried to curse you with. Your desperation would have come from believing lies about your worth. Their desperation comes from facing the truth about their character. Watch what happens to people who try to block a chosen one's blessings. Their own blessings get blocked. Watch what happens to people who try to close a chosen one's heart. Their own heart becomes harder. Watch what happens to people who try to make a chosen one settle for less. They end up with nothing at all. This isn't revenge. This is the consequence. This isn't you doing something to them. This is them experiencing the natural result of their actions. Their relationships are falling apart now. Not because you're doing anything to them, but because the same energy they used to sabotage your connections is now sabotaging their own. The same suspicion they tried to plant in your mind is now their reality. They can't trust anyone because they know what they're capable of. The abundance they saw in your future and tried to steal is now completely out of their reach. Not because you're withholding it, but because they operated from scarcity for so long that scarcity became their permanent state. They set the rules of the game, and now they're playing by them. Here's something about divine justice you need to understand. It doesn't require your participation. You don't have to seek revenge. All you have to do is keep rising, keep elevating, keep choosing yourself, and the universe handles the rest. The spell is broken, the chains are off, the weights are removed, and now you're about to run a race they can't even qualify for. You're not just surviving anymore, you're dominating. You're not just recovering, you're conquering. You're not just moving forward, you're ascending to levels that require a completely different frequency to access. Your smile that triggered their jealousy is about to light up rooms in ways that create opportunities they can't imagine. Your heart that they tried to close is about to open wider than it's ever been and connect with people who will change your entire trajectory. Your love that they tried to poison is about to flow pure and powerful into spaces that were designed specifically for you. Your destiny that they tried to derail is about to manifest with such force that everyone who doubted you will have to acknowledge what God did. You're not lonely, you're selective, and there's a massive difference. You're not desperate, you're patient, and patience is power. You're not broken, you're rebuilt. And what gets rebuilt is always stronger than the original. You're not cursed, you're blessed. And every single day you continue to rise. Every moment you choose yourself, every time you refuse to lower your standards, you reinforce the breaking of that spell and build immunity to future attacks. Listen carefully. They wanted you to believe you weren't worthy of real love. You proved them wrong by becoming someone real love seeks out. They wanted you to settle for toxicity. You chose peace, and now peace follows you. They wanted you to be bitter like them. You chose joy, and now joy is your default state. They wanted you to fail. You chose success, and now success is inevitable. You stand now on top of the rubble of every plan they made against you. You are living evidence that spells can be broken, that curses reverse on their sender, that destinies cannot be stopped by jealousy, manipulation or witchcraft. You are proof that chosen ones don't just survive attacks. We use them as fuel. We transform pressure into power. We turn warfare into worship. When the spell was working, you second-guessed every decision about love. You analyzed every interaction, looking for proof that someone was going to leave. You prepared for abandonment instead of hoping for commitment. That was the loneliness spell at work. But now you move differently. You trust your discernment. You recognize red flags without needing to be hit by them repeatedly. You honor your intuition when something feels off. This is what breaking the desperation spell looks like. You don't need to convince anyone to treat you right. You simply walk away from anyone who doesn't. The person who set this spell is watching this transformation, and they can't comprehend it. They can't understand how you went from questioning yourself to being absolutely certain. This shift terrifies them, because your transformation exposes everything they told you as lies. Watch what happens now that you're free. Opportunities appear that weren't visible before. People show up who match your energy. Situations that used to stress you suddenly resolve with ease. This is what happens when you break free from spiritual bondage and step into your actual frequency. The loneliness they tried to curse you with has transformed into peaceful solitude. The desperation they tried to instill has become patient selectivity. Everything they meant for your destruction became the catalyst for your reconstruction. You're operating now in a space where their old tactics don't work anymore. You've evolved beyond their reach and you're never going back. This is permanent transformation. This is complete liberation. This is total domination. Walk through that door with your head high and your heart open. Walk knowing that what's on the other side is everything they tried to keep from you multiplied. You didn't just survive their attack. You dominated it. You used it as a stepping stone to reach heights they'll never see. Your breakthrough is bigger than you. Your liberation is a testimony. Your joy is proof that no weapon formed against you will prosper. You are the example of what happens when a chosen one stops surviving and starts dominating. The spell is broken, the curse is lifted, the attack has failed, and you are free to love and be loved exactly the way you were always meant to be. Not from need but from abundance. Not from desperation but from selection. Not from brokenness but from wholeness. Welcome to the other side of the spell. Welcome to your new beginning. Welcome to the love, joy, peace, power, and abundance waiting for you. You made it. You broke free. You dominated. And now the real journey begins, where you're not fighting to survive, but learning to thrive at levels that rewrite what's possible. This is what freedom looks like. This is what victory feels like. This is what domination sounds like. This is what happens when a chosen one breaks the spell and steps fully into their destiny. And your destiny is unstoppable. It's inevitable. It's what's been waiting for you to become who you needed to be to handle it. And you're ready now. You're built now. You're positioned now. So receive it, own it, live it, dominate it,